In the last video, we talked about the whole series of events within about a 35-year period, 20 to 35-year period, about Mexico becoming independent, the governor of Mexico inviting Americans to come in, settle the land, produce the land, develop it. How the Americans didn't like the restrictions the Mexican government placed on them, so they fought a war against Mexico, and how Mexico lost, so then this became a separate nation, a republic, and America said, oh no, you're all Americans, you're really a part of us, so we'll just say you're a part of us. Mexico says, no America, that's still our land, and we fight a war, Mexico loses, and now here's the Louisiana line. Now we gain all this from Mexico. And this area up here, we had some negotiations with Great Britain, and we got that too. So now, the whole idea of manifest destiny that was declared, and remember we talked about manifest means obvious. Destiny is what is absolutely determined to happen. We have talked about how this has come true, that the destiny of the United States to have all the land between the Atlantic and the Pacific has happened. So now we have California. And in 1848, and if we go back to this, we just get it from Mexico. And remember, this was all Mexican settlement. So you had a lot of people of Hispanic origin living there. So this was not just empty land. These were people from Mexico who had populated Mexican territory and were living there. So now they're under the government of the United States. And there's a gentleman, so California has quite a few people in it, and James Marshall discovers gold. And he finds this gold, and by 1849, a year later, there is a rush of thousands of people to California to strike it rich. And now California is being inundated with thousands and thousands coming to try to find gold. Many of them did, most didn't, but they're out here. So then they start trying to find other jobs and other work. Some of them don't have the money to go back to where they came from, so they have to do life in this place called California. So, so many came that now California has a big enough population to petition the federal government to be included as a state. So here we are again. The Missouri Compromise kept the peace for 30 years. But now we're at to 1850, and there is this whole big quandary of what is going to be free and what isn't. Because 6 new states joined the Union with all this that happened. Texas joined the Union. I told you before, Wisconsin, Michigan. So now the balance is okay. But then it's still even. So the slave states don't have a larger voice in Congress than the free states, and vice versa, until California. And then California says, we want to become a part of the United States. And that would upset the balance between the free and the slave states. So, and notice that California extends below the Missouri Compromise line. So now what are they going to do with the law that they had passed 20, 30 years ago? Is it null and void because this whole piece is California and it's below that? So now the whole slavery, pro-slavery, anti-slavery issue is exploding again. So they came up with the Missouri Compromise back in 1820 that gave us this dividing line. So now in Congress, they come up with the Compromise of 1850. And this is what both sides got. And remember, in a compromise, you never get all that you want. You get a portion of what you want, but not all. So what did the North get? The North got all of California below that dividing line as a free state. And the North got the slave trade banned in Washington, D.C. So you would not find slave trade companies in a capital where we have the Declaration of Independence. So what did the South get? The South got Congress to say we no longer have power to regulate the slave trade. That the slave trade between states will be the state's personal business. We take our hands off. We will not pass laws concerning that. Popular sovereignty in the new territories will decide slavery. And what popular sovereignty is that the people in these territories will vote and decide whether they want slavery allowed or not. So instead of there being a firm line here and there would never be slavery up there, now if enough people who move there want it, slavery can travel all over our country. The Fugitive Slave Act, that meant the seizure or the grabbing or the taking and return of runaway slaves who escaped from one slave state to free territory. And what that meant is, if a slave hunter, an owner says, my slave ran away, slave hunter can go into the free areas, free states, point to somebody and say, he's a runaway slave, arrest him, bring him back south into slave territory without a trial, without any due process. So in this Missouri Compromise, the South gets those two, and the North gets those two, and the South gets those four. This is very, very important for you to know. So stop the video and get this. And look at this map and see, once California came in, the Missouri Compromise of 1820 was done, out the door. We will continue with more of what happens now that the pot's being stirred in our country and these compromises on the next video.